Hey guys, and welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. We are starting today's episode out on Phobos, and there's two reasons why we're here. The first is that we are after some more ores, specifically a bauxite vein, which should be in this chunk here with all the spiders. So we're going to set up the multi-block miner here in the bauxite vein. It should also pick up the nickel. And I didn't realise we could get draconium here as well. That's very interesting. So instead of storing the outputs on site here, we're going to send this all into an ender chest. So I don't think I've missed anything with this setup. We should be able to just come back later on for tons and tons of resources. And since our single block miners aren't doing anything currently, we may as well also just put these things down. But that's only one reason why we're here. The second is that we need surface blocks. Should be 8 of them, I think. Hey, there we go. So I think for now we're actually done here on Phobos. Give a rocket some more fuel. Oh, the zombie dropped an enchanted book here. No way this is fortune. Can you imagine? Oh, we got our fortune book back. Well, anyways, the ender chest on the miner is connected to this ender chest here, which we do have to replace at some point. This is meant for our sugar, but I think that's something we'll get to today. And slowly, we should see this fill with tons of bauxite and aluminium, and hopefully some nickel in there as well. So, in the last episode, we expanded out and added another distillation tower on the end, in order to support our new farm here in the Void base. We're also still in the process of trying to breed up these crops for stats, and a few of you guys mentioned Weedex. That's... that would be a very good idea, I think. Oh, that's right, we need a brewing machine for this, that's why I didn't make it before. And the recipe for the brewing machine requires a brewing stand, which we have to research here in Thaumcraft. And the recipe is actually not that bad, just some aluminium. You know, I already forgot the recipe. Is it like this? Screws in the bottom? Yeah, there we go. And after probably too long, our first brewing stance. You know, that's actually not true. I forgot we had this one here, which it makes us lubricant. So I think we keep all the breweries together. We just have one brewery doing water and glowstone. Is going to give us thick brew. We mix the thick brew with spider eyes. This is actually all the spider eyes we have right now. Maybe it's time for a mob farm. Although there is some other methods to get mob drops, which I think we'll look into fairly soon actually. Although not before we do ore processing, we need that sooner rather than later. But this is going to give us strong poisonous brew, which we send into a fluid canner with the empty spray can. And this gives us Weedex. So now we can leave this unattended without the weed spreading. Oh, only 64 uses each, look at this. We're going to need a lot of them. I mean, the higher stats on the crops we have, the faster this goes, so hopefully it shouldn't be too much longer before we get these to max. So I don't know if this is going to be a project we get finished today. In fact, it's highly unlikely we get all this finished. Although I think it's time to do something about this. There is way too many resources unprocessed. Some more in here, some more in here. Several chests worth at least. Oh, and there's this one here. Until this point, we have more or less manually just been processing them through these steam grinders, which has been here for, I don't know, like 30 episodes. So we have to start designing a system that can handle the various ores. We have crushed, impure, regular dusts, ingots, and purified, I think, along with the original ore form. And as far as I can tell, there's 2 options we can go with here. There is either GT++ multiblocks, which are specific multi-block versions of things like the centrifuge, or the much more future-proof and amazing setup that we can go for is the processing array. And this is the one I'm leaning towards, even though it is a bigger initial upfront cost. If we go with these things, we can upgrade them in the future, without having to rebuild the multi-block or anything. These things though are definitely not cheap. We need Lapatronic energy orbs, which we made a few more of last episode, but it's basically 1 per machine, along with the EV robot arms, IV circuits, which we do have automated. We'll see if we have the resources for this though. And the rest of the casings are tungsten steel. So not only do we need a lot of tungsten steel, which I have just started through our blast furnace here. I think we have another couple of stacks going through this. The processing arrays also need machines of their own, so effectively you can stack, for example, 32 MV macerators inside, and it will process the recipe as if you're doing 32 MV macerators, only it's contained within one 3x3 multi-block, which is what makes these things so awesome. So I need to go through and actually count how many we need. We need to decide on a place to put this thing, and we need to start designing the logic, because there is a few items and ores we need to specifically take out and not process all the way down. Alright, so it's been a little while for me. I've been trying to design this ore processing system. Right now it's just a collection of blocks, but eventually it's going to be a fully modular, be able to handle everything we throw at it, ore processing system. At least that's the plan anyway. So basically what we're going to do here is have our input chests. This is where all of the output of our miners is going to end up. We'll have one big item conduit that goes through the middle of the room. And then along each branch we're going to have different sections of the ore processing. So for example, we have here the macerators, the thermal centrifuges, regular centrifuges, chemical baths, electrolyzers, sifting machines, small and tiny dust processing, simple washers, forge hammers, and ore washers. And not everything has to go through all of these processes, but it's going to be a lot of filtering. And to help us with that, we're going to use the type filters, similar to what we have on the vacuum freezer. So this is how we're going to manage what exactly goes into each step of the chain. Something like that. For the majority of these, I don't think we'll need it for all, but we do need to have some sort of buffer between the type filler and the machine itself. Most of which will be eventually the processing array, although I don't think we can get all of these today. Which I'm thinking right now is just going to be a simple drawer network. Although with the nerfs in this pack, I don't know if it's going to be sufficient or not. We will start off with a drawer network though, since it is the cheapest option. I mean, luckily we can just auto-craft drawers, but yeah, if you weren't aware already, we do have a drawer nerf in this, which means that there is only a 4-block range on the drawers. And there's also a cap on the amount of drawers that can fit on a controller as well. So I think right around this sort of a size is our maximum, if we use both sides. So yeah, we'll go from the type filler into the drawer controller, and then from the drawer controller into the machine inputs. As for the outputs though, we don't want it on the same connection as this conduit. We want it to join back up with the main line. Since, for example, if we input crushed ore from the miners, let's say we crush this, then ore wash, we need to be able to send the purified on to the next step of the line, which means that it has to join this item conduit again and then be imported by the next type filler. So in that case, we're going to put the output bus on the middle, and we're just going to send the item conduit underneath, which will then join up with the main conduit line again. There are some very specific cases, like for example indium gallium phosphide, which we need for qubits. Qubits are used for processing units, and processing units are used for quantum processors. And to make this, we need to specifically filter out purified sphalerite and purified galena. So that is just one of the few considerations that we have to make here, and not send everything through the one system. But let's see what we're missing here for a couple of processing arrays. We'll start off with the energy orbs again. I know we've made these quite a few times, but we need 16 HV circuits per, and we're going to aim for 4 of these processing arrays today. Let's see if we can get at least a stack of HV processors. We're missing thin silicon rubber. I think it's trying to use that for the capacitor recipe. So we're not currently producing any silicon rubber in item form. We should have plenty of fluids here, and it should be fully automatic being produced in this tank. So we're just going to add an extra fluid solidifier here, extend along the item conduit, and the fluid conduit to insert silicon rubber. We need a plate mold, and we want this machine to only run when we're below 64 silicon rubber sheets in our system. So all we need now is a recipe for thin silicon rubber sheets from the plates we're fluid solidifying. That goes in our bending machine, and we should be able to request our stack of HV processors now. Apparently we don't have a crafting CPU large enough. Okay, we'll have to do this in smaller batches then. So we're also going to need IV circuits for each of these, which in fact in our case also take nanoprocessor assemblies, which also takes HV circuits. So we'll need a lot more than 64 of these, probably like 500 odd. Oh boy, yeah, this is why we need ore processing, to get more materials to build more ore processing. So I'm not going to say how long that took, but it's been a very long time. I've been having a bit of fun with this and getting a little bit too carried away. So I thought I'd bring you guys back and show you what has changed. First of all, I wanted to get at least some of the machines built so that we don't have to fill this all out with processing arrays to begin with. So I crafted up at least one machine for each step, and we can slowly turn these in for processing arrays. But I thought it would be easier to get the logic set up first, and that way we can at least get through some of these chests. So this is basically what came from the old base. Like, there is days and days worth of stuff to get processed here. I did also move our large sifting machine over, and had to make some adjustments to these type filters and add some extra Ender IO filters on top of this as well. So just to help us keep track of things, I made this, and this is basically the default routes for each type of the ore. So we're using a mix of the item conduit priorities and also whitelists and blacklists, depending on what we want here. And I've upgraded actually to the advanced item filter so that it gives us some more space. Hopefully we have enough space to filter things. I mean, we do have multiple sides of these type filters. The majority of the types though, we're just relying on the type filter itself. So this right here is our current input chest, although it's going to be changed. This will eventually be an ender chest. They'll probably end up being an applied energistics subnet. But just so that we have tighter control at the moment, before all the filtering gets done, I'm just going to dump everything into this compressed chest. So I've been slowly working my way through this, and if we take for actually cinnabar is a bad example. Let's do sulfur. Basically all the byproducts here are just sulfur, which I'm not really interested in. So this doesn't need any more special processing. This just goes in the input chest. And its default route, which is currently the fastest, is going to be the forge hammer to turn it into impure. And then it's going to go through the centrifuge. Although I'm kind of torn about this step actually. I don't really know if we should filter this into the centrifuge or just the simple dust washer. It's going to be a lot of filtering if we end up doing this. I haven't really decided yet. There is 2 spaces for impure dust to go, it's just that this one is on higher priority. Another thing we have to watch for is the siftable items, such as lapis, and also I think ruby we had in here as well. These ones we have to check first of all if we want to ore wash. We get a lazarite byproduct. I'm not really interested in this for lapis. We have way too much lazarite. For ruby though, we can actually get chrome this way, but I mean we have access to chrome ore now. So these ones we just want to filter inside simple washers. So they'll be added to this filter here, which is on whitelist and the highest priority on the network. So once these are washed, we want to add them to this drawer network here, which is missing the type filter, and that's just because this is on the highest priority, which is on priority 2. So we're just using the actual locked drawers as the filter in this case. Yeah, same with the thermal centrifuge. There's very few things we actually want the thermal centrifuge. So we also just put this on priority 2 and then just filter in the items that we want to go through this process. And you notice there we get things like the chipped and flawed gems. Those we just macerate, apart from the exquisites, which we just store as exquisites. Actually, I'm not really sure what we should do about these ones. There isn't much use for them, but I think the type filter that is going to apply to those is just gems. And I really don't want it to smash things like the Thaumcraft gems or diamonds. So 2 processes I haven't really touched yet is the electrolysis and also chemical baths. Oh, and also the small and tiny dusts, which we're just storing in these chests. The small and tiny dusts actually are going to be a really easy fix. All we need for this is 2 packagers. And I believe here in GTNH we also need the schematic for dusts. How do we make a schematic? 4 LV circuits. I've also went through so many item conduits today, it's unbelievable. And remember, these things cost 1 pulsating iron each, which also takes ender pearls, and we do have to figure out a way to automate these sooner rather than later. I think crops can actually automate pearls, but for now we just keep relying on the quest book. So just to keep things consistent, I think we'll put the machines back here. 1 for dust tiny, 1 for small dust. So we take the outputs out of the back. It's more or less the same for every machine here, but everything here is running at EV. All of this pink cable is all EV here. And we have a high amp transformer on this side. We're only using AX cable, but in theory there shouldn't be any more than, 6 amps going through here. And then the item conduit to join everything back up to the main line is just running alongside the power cables. In fact, this one is in the wrong place. What am I doing here? This should be 1 block over. So from the type filter we need to go into a buffer chest, which we point up. And for the small dust we need to configure this to... Actually, hold on, how do we configure this? Ah, there we go. Yeah, we want to regulate stack size to 4 for small dusts, and 9 for the tiny dusts. That just means that it won't oversend to the packager and have not enough to craft the full dust. Else it would jam the input slot of this machine here. We need to give these guys a transformer and hook them up with some power as well. Now you should work. Yeah, there we go, and we get the pure ruby dust. Unfortunately, we can't use the robot arms like we can in Community Edition. These don't allow you to export specific amounts to the adjacent inventory. It also appears that our miner is finished on Phobos. That is an excellent amount of ilmenite. I think there's even some more in the upper chests. Just 2 chests though, that's a bit less than I was expecting actually. I wonder if it's run out of drilling fluid. You know, I'm still not tired of these rockets. It's so fun landing in this balloon every single time. But we didn't bounce that much this time though. It really does change the feel of the pack when you don't have access to anything like the dislocator. Okay, it appears it has stopped. We've got maintenance issues. Oh, maybe it's just out of fuel. Yeah, it's just run out of fuel. Lots of drilling fluid left though. Huh, still hasn't picked up any of the nickel. I didn't notice any in the chest, so I was maybe going to move this thing for tungstate, but I think we'll actually just refuel this and get it going again. Fix the circuitry in the maintenance hatch. I think that was a soldering alloy. Yeah. And we should be in business again. Our single block miner should definitely be finished by now. Yeah, it looks like it. Mainly I put this here for gold actually, since we've made so many HV components today. Come on, little rocket. Aha. Alright, so let's see if we can actually get one of these processing arrays up and running. I've kind of been putting off crafting this thing, because I know we're missing so much stuff for this. But let's tackle the problem head on. So, I've started requesting our elite nano computers. More or less everything I've been crafting up until now, I've been adding recipes for, which I really don't think is a bad idea. So, there's been a few new machine additions, and I also moved our multi-smelter into the middle here. Okay, at least 4 more EV for the robot arms for the processing array. We need a recipe for our large stainless steel fluid pipe. I think for the robot arms, we're just waiting on black steel for the wires. And then our energy orbs, which I've been putting off a bit. We can actually, at this point, add a recipe for this. Yeah, we have an EV circuit assembler hooked up to our AE system. Let's see what we're missing for one of these things. Just the Lapatron chips, that's what I expected. Haha, finally, we got our processing array. And fireworks. Alright, this I'm excited for. We also need an input bus, an output bus, which I think will do HV. Should arrive here any second now. Maybe? Wait, what is going on here? There it is. A maintenance hatch, which we have spare. And at least 14 of these robust tungsten steel machine casings. 120 tungsten steel per. Wow. Maybe it's about time we mix up some more tungsten steel dust. So now the thing is, which process do we prioritize here? Which one are we using the most of and that is the slowest? I think the answer to that is the macerator. Wait, these don't need muffler hatches, do they? No, the tooltip seems to suggest these are pollution free, which is nice, I guess. I guess that's one more point in favour of the processing array over the GT multis. So after we do our maintenance here, there is a few other preparations before we can get this up and running. The first of which is to make sure the output doesn't get clogged, and for that we're going to use the item detector cover. Oh, weighted pressure plate, really? So this cover works similar to the fluid detector cover, and it will basically measure the contents of an input or output bus and output a redstone signal. So I think in fact we want to switch the output to the front here, which means we'll have to put the input on the side a little bit, which is going to throw off the conduit, since we'll have to do something like that and disconnect this side. But we want to put the detector cover on the top side of the output bus, and that means we can put a machine controller below. Okay, detect slot we want all, and if there's one item in the output bus, then output a redstone signal. Machine controller we put on safe mode and enable with redstone. And now we're going to have to change this conduit out to the front side, which actually saves a few conduits, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, like that. So if we weren't to have this cover on here, there could be potentially some voiding that happens if this output bus ever ends up full. And for whatever reason, if the rest of the line ends up backed up, we don't want this machine to keep running and just voiding all its contents. We also need to give this thing machines of its own, so we're going to be going with LV macerators. I wonder if we just shift click here, is this going to be a mistake? 22 LV macerators. I guess we're going with 22. Oh, and we got our quest. So from what I understand, even though these are LV and don't normally give you the chance outputs like the HV ones do, if they're inside the processing array, then I believe we do get the extra chance outputs out of this. You know what, let's just test it. Let's disconnect this for a second. What can we macerate? That's kind of a silly question, just look at all this stuff. Let's do some magnetite since we need some more gold. Oh, it's already running. Oh, there was already some ilmenite in the drawers, I guess. and it does give us the extra chance outputs, look at that. Nice, so we can go up to a stack of machines, which we'll eventually do. Looks like it has shut off though because there's items in the output bus. That's exactly the behavior we're looking for. If we plug this in, it should empty out and start up again. Perfection, nice. Okay, let's get some more if we can. And I did also change this step here with the centrifuges. I removed the type filter here for the impure dusts, and we're now just filtering these on higher priority, for specifically the ones we want to centrifuge. And then I've split off the drawers into 2 separate networks so that this just acts as unlock drawers for buffer, which takes purified dust. And we don't get a lot of purified dust since we're not washing a whole lot of stuff right now. In fact, I don't think we've filtered to wash anything right now. All the washing we just do in the simple washer for now. But I think, regardless, this centrifuging step is going to be our next processing array. I'm curious if we have enough power to run these things like permanently. That's maybe something we should keep an eye on, because right now we don't have any sort of battery on this line. I mean, I guess we have safe mode on, so nothing should get voided, like before. Alright, let's get another processing array. 24 more Lapitron chips. Hey, we have our second working processing array for centrifuges. Currently have 22 in these right now. I also noticed on the quest for the processing array that we need at least an EV energy hatch if we want to do 64 LV machines, which is something to keep in mind. I'm not sure how many LVs we can do at HV, but yeah, we now have a working centrifuge. And after taking out the filter, I've decided now to replace this thing, so we're actually just going to centrifuge all impures. I don't think we're really going to bother with the simple washer. Oh, actually, except for things like impure stone dust and netherrack dust. Yeah, like here, if we, for example, ever get any of this, there's no need for the extra chance output at the centrifuge for stone dust. In fact, I have no idea what we're going to do with all this. I think you can actually centrifuge this. Some of these are not so bad, so that may be a process worth setting up, but for now we just trash it because we get so much of it. So what we'll do here is, we'll set this priority on 1, and this one on default of 0. But we'll add a blacklist here for the impure stone dust. I also want to add netherrack dust to this as well. I don't know if there's a way to see netherrack dust in NEI. I think it might be hidden. Oh no, we can get it from the NEI page for the washing step. Yeah, pin this and then take it from the pins. Yeah, there we go. That's a sneaky way to do that. And that actually means we can just join these drawer networks up again. So at this point, I think it's just a matter of letting all of these ores through. There's 1 or 2 items that we still have to filter out. I think we're missing some of the filters for the siftables, but that is something I'm going to work on between episodes. We've got a lot of work still to do on this ore processing system. We need to also implement our applied energistic subnet so that we can store the outputs. Right now it's all just going in here, and this is filling up very, very quickly. We also have to deal with the odd dusts like magnetite, pyrolusite maybe as well. I don't know if it's worth electrolyzing these things. That's something I think we'll have to decide on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, I'm really excited we got our processing arrays up, finally. Oh, these things are so awesome. Anyways, that is going to do us for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all soon for some more Gregtech New Horizons.